have a damn thing to do with slaves. The 14th Amendment was passed so that corporations could end up controlling America as flesh and blood man and woman, and the actual man and woman would be turned into a fiction/corporation. That's how your names got to be in all caps. That's why you're not perceived as a flesh and blood man and woman. They can't deal with you in a courtroom as a flesh and blood man and woman. That's why they bring you in there as a fiction. Because only a fiction can interact with a fiction. Only a corporation can interact with another corporation. The United States is a corporation. When you step up into the courtroom, what you perceive to be a courtroom, it is not a courtroom. You understand that because when you see behind the judge the flag that's hanging in the courtroom, it bears a gold fringe. You're not even in America at that point. You have stepped on international, or you stepped in foreign territory. You're on a ship, a naval ship. And you're no longer in the jurisdiction of the United States of America. So common law no longer applies. What do you do now? How do you conduct your sovereign self in that venue? You're in an Admiralty Maritime Court. Admiralty Maritime Courts deals with what? International contract disputes. So you have to understand two things. First, you got to say, well, one is a contract. Two, it's an international contract. Who in the hell do I have a contract with anywhere? And we never think of that. I remember the first time I walked into a courtroom and I asked the judge, where's the contract? He ignored me the first time, and he asked me how did I plead. I said, where's the contract? I can't determine anything until I can see the contract. What contract? And I quoted Clearfield Trust Doctrine. All governments, when dealing with the collection of revenues, commercial paper, are no longer governments, descend to the level of a mere private corporation, and like any corporation, to compel performance, to make me do or pay anything, you must present the contract and submit it as evidence. And I just brought his whole court to a screeching halt. Young man, what are you talking about? Sir, are you not familiar with Clearfield Trust Doctrine? I'm in a maritime court. What do you mean maritime? You have a gold fringe flag hanging behind you. I am not in a common law court. I'm in a maritime court. Where's my contract? You're saying you're compelling me to perform under a contract. This is a contract court. Where's my contract? He hit the gavel and said, hey, get out of here. Get out of here. He dismissed court because I was causing a ruckus. All these black folks sitting around, what the hell that nigga talking about? And they have to shut it down and get you out there. Because somebody might be listening. Somebody might be listening. And I mean, it was a fascinating journey when we first started going into the courts. It took us about a good couple of years before the judges and everybody else gave us our respect. It took us a while. When we walk out of the courtroom, it's 30 or 40 police and deputies outside the courts. Chest stuck out, like growling like pit bulls, just ready to jump all over us. And we smiled. Hey, y'all have a good day. I'll be back next week. You may get your chance then. One of the brothers that was just such a butthole, Jamaican brother, big muscle-bound, bald-head joker, just ready to crunch somebody. Dude, you do not need to be in my face and in my space, because if you come any closer, I'm going to have everything that you own, and I'm going to make you my slave. And if you don't believe me, put your hands on me, because the proof is in the pudding. After about 3 or 4 months, that very knucklehead became my greatest ally in that courtroom. He saw me on the street one day downtown, and I was driving. He pulled alongside me. Hey, Moore, what's happening? You still driving with no license? Yes, sir. Have a good day. He was in his patrol car. He just grinned and went on. And we started talking one day. He said, you know what, we thought you guys were full of shit and were clowns. He said, but we started recognizing that the judges and the lawyers was getting scared and intimidated. They were backing up. So they started with saying, some must be right. They got to be doing it because the judges slam dunking everybody else. But when them cats walk in there, the judges get nervous. And they were paying attention to the judges' reaction and response to us. And I mean, it was interesting because a couple of feds came in a couple of times and sat in the back. We watched them. They was watching us, and they would nod to the judges, trying to, I guess, indicate to the judges on how to handle us. But several of the guards and the police down there started saying, you know what, we recognize that y'all guys are serious. And they know. He said they're having meetings on how to deal with y'all. And you think that, y'all, look, I'm going to tell y'all something. You think they having meetings in D.C., they having meetings in France, they having meetings in Germany, they having meetings in Great Britain on how to deal with y'all. Because y'all are a major issue right now. You don't understand what time it is because they got all your books. They got all your prophecies that says when and where. And that's all they telling you in the movie Zorro. That the remnant seed is going to rise up in the West. And the whole Illuminati job is to shut you down and make sure you don't. Because they losing their power and authority every time one of y'all wake up.
Demonstrate.
And they ain't playing. Yes, sir.
They just installed a archbishop over there in Britain, Yorkshire.
Mm-hmm.
York. He's second in command to the Anglican Church. But his name is John Simplemore.
We about to send a whole bunch of more.
He's from Uganda.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Why what was the raucous about the 14th Amendment in the South? The Southern states didn't want to vote for it.
Why the Southern states didn't want to? The Southern states.
No, I mean they were kept out
Absolutely.
of participating.
Who do you think was kept out?
Oh, okay. That's my question.
You were being put out your own house.
Okay.
You don't remember, but it was you who wrote the Constitution. You wrote the Constitution. They simply borrowed it. And William Penn said that everything we got, we owe to the Moors. They put the breath of life in the Constitution. The Moors wrote the Constitution. It was the Articles of Confederation, and before it was the Articles of Confederation, there was something here called the Moorish Confederate Republic. Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli were, Delaware was Morocco, Louisiana, half of Louisiana was France, the other half was Tripoli, Mississippi, Tunis, and the names are still there. They call it Tunica today, Algiers and Tripoli. The Barbary Coast is over here, not over there. They moved that. Morocco over there is a corporation. The original Morocco was right here. The Moors in Spain were right here. And the Moors, when they were put out of Spain, we're talking about the West Coast.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The Moors in Spain, from history, it says it's Gibraltar, where they got what they call misnomer out of Robert Gibraltar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that's Europe, and they call it Andalusia, El Andalus.
Uh-huh. Andalusia, you're absolutely
So,
right.
so how can
Before 1868, Europe was Argentina. Rome, all of that was in South America. Everything has been shifted. The pyramids didn't start in Egypt and Africa. The pyramids started over here. I can tell you they rewrote your history, turned the map upside down. They turned us around butt backwards. That's how we walking through the world like this. Wondering why we having problems. You're going to do a whole lot of stumbling and falling, walking backwards. And that's all we've been doing. They converted us into Moriscos, Moorish Christians. Do you understand why they were fighting for the Alamo? That was one of the last mosques that stood, that the Moors owned in America. The Alamo was a mosque. It was a holy temple of the Moors. There was one in Arizona that's over 1,000 years old. There's one in New Mexico. And even the History Channel, they show you this. But on the History Channel, they don't call you Moors, they call you Indians. They say the Indians was always running into their mosque. You hell Indians doing running into a mosque? Indian supposed to run into a TV